Isis, welcome to BroadBand.
Hey, glad to be here.
I'm so excited to have our conversation and for our listeners and viewers to get to know a little bit about you, about all the kind of cool stuff that you do in the world. So let's just jump right in right now. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I was
Okay.
born ready.
I love that response. I did not tell her to say that. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what your business is professionally. What do you do, your work in the world?
Well, I do three things. I help people to be able to build a business, and I do that in financial services, actually. And so I take people who have never worked in financial services and I help them figure out what it is that they're gifted with and then bring that to the world. I also help people to be able to save money, make money, and just generally feel a sense of well-being around their finances.
Which finances is a scary word and a scary world. How long have you been doing this work?
7 years now.
And what brought you to it?
Well, I had this horrible experience back in 2008 where we had a small family-owned business. It was a toy store. And this toy store was so much fun. We were the hub for the town. Sometimes I would have to remind myself that people were coming there because it was almost like a museum in some ways, like a hands-on kind of museum. And to just, have a little grace when they just wanted to hang out for 3 or 4 hours. But we had all these stations all over the store. And we gave people the opportunity to ride cat cars inside of our store, do dino digs, play at the train station area. And then we even added a clothing store. And, in my 30s, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. I was on top of the world. We were raising 2 children, my husband, Jason, and I. And then 2008 came along and we lost everything. And it was really humiliating to be in this small community and suddenly feel like you're standing there naked, like totally exposed. You don't have income, you can't provide, and all you're left with is a whole bunch of debt. And that was the catalyst. It took a number of years, but that was the catalyst.
Thank you for sharing that story. I didn't know that story. Isis and I know each other a little bit, and I did not know that story.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very powerful. Very powerful. So the services that you offer, there are many different kinds of offers out there and businesses that offer maybe similar, right, types of things. What are maybe the top 3 reasons that makes your offer to the world special?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with where I've come from. So it has helped to determine where I've gone. I'm told that I've turned that humility that I felt, right? I felt humiliated, but I've turned it into humility to be able to meet people right where they are. I don't speak to them as though they are children and I'm speaking down to them. I speak to them as though they're peers who are trying to go from where they are to where they want to be. And I've learned that everybody just wants to make more income and be valued. And so I do that through things like evolution business development. I do that through education, through webinars and seminars. And I always tell everybody education is free. And I even make sure that it applies so that it feels personal when you're being educated, so that when you walk away, you think that was time well spent.
And I can attest to it. I've talked with you in group settings and one-to-one, and that is definitely describes the experience I have with you. So you're right on the money, honey. Sorry, there was no pun there. Okay. Or actually there was, sorry. All right. If you could go back to your younger self what kind of advice would you give yourself about pursuing this life or creating a business?
That there are many iterations, that when we feel like there's only one path, and if I don't step down this path perfectly, if I falter, if I wonder, is that another way that I might be going? There's no right or wrong. It's just another option. There's right or wrong ways to do something, right? That you have to be honest. You have to be trustworthy. You have to be a person of your word. You have to be kind and thoughtful. But none of those describe the path.
Mm-hmm.
They describe you and your identity and the path you walk. It's a role. And those roles will change. And I've been a mom to young children. I've been a mom to older children. I've run businesses. I've closed businesses. I've won at it. I've failed at it. And one of the greatest things that happened was when I stopped thinking of failing as something that was heart-wrenching.
Mm.
That to fail at something just means that you've had an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. I love that answer, because we as a culture are not taught the skills or given the space to navigate failure or being wrong.
Yeah.
And I know personally, if I had better skills to navigate those areas,
Yeah.
I think I could grow a lot more quickly, and do more in the world. And so I love that answer, Isis.
Well, the first and most important thing is to recognize why it is that we're afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And once we can overcome that fear, we can step into anything that we want. And you decide I've been listening to so much about marketing, and you just simply decide that now you know who you are, you know your core being.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it aligns with that, then charge on.
Yeah.
Or
being authentic.
Or quietly creep. It's okay. Either one is fine. There's no right or wrong there.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Who has influenced you professionally?
Everybody. Right?
One of those.
Yeah. I find influence in the most simple things sometimes. One of my very favorite influences of recent was a movie called Saving Mr. Banks.
Who's in that? Is that Tom Hanks? No, who's in that?
I don't know who's in it, honestly, but it's about Mary Poppins.
Oh, okay.
And I was sitting there questioning as I'm watching this movie, and it's making the tears roll down my face. And I'm questioning, am I using my time wisely right now? Is this something that's going to better me? And I couldn't really answer it at first. And then I sat quietly thinking about it. And I thought, yeah, because that's our story. Figuring out why we're so frightened, why we're so angry, why we're so sad, and then taking ownership of that and telling a story. And then I realized, oh, and by the way, I give a spoonful of medicine, right? A spoonful of sugar, I should say, a spoonful of sugar with every bit of medicine that I give.
Yeah.
Because when you tell somebody they have to change, that's medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can do it with love and kindness and a spoonful of sugar, they accept it and they use it, and they don't try to run away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one of my absolute favorites, and it had nothing to do with business, but it was all about recognizing my own value.
I love it. I love it. My gosh. When you have a win, how do you celebrate that?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is something I've been working on. Um, I I just did a whole presentation about women in business. And one of the things that I could not get a straight answer on from any of the women on the panel was what they do to get themselves in the spotlight and celebrate their wins.
Mm,
And the reason that I asked the question is it's something I've been working on a lot. And I personally have started taking the opportunity to schedule them, to schedule the the time or the event or some way to congratulate myself.
yeah.
And I've also been getting more and more public so that I can celebrate them, because I've realized I prefer to celebrate it publicly. I
Mm,
want to be with other people who get it. So I find people that understand why it's so important to win in business, and then I share it with them.
yeah.
And but I also do things like get my nails done or have a glass of wine, or I drink my wine for joy, not to not to try to end the day and be like, whew, that was rough.
Yeah.
But so if I'm feeling that way, I don't drink any. But if I'm feeling joyful, then I have a glass.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What would you say was one of the most surprising things about being a business owner?
Hmm. That I was so disrespected
Mm.
by businesses when I tried to find a job after 2008,
Oh,
that I had made myself unhireable because they knew that I couldn't be happy
explain
in
that a little
those.
bit more. What do you mean? What do you mean?
I was too independent. I was, the things that are, that dominant personality
Mm-hmm.
that can almost be aggressive, right? Because you have to aggressively go after your dreams. Those particular traits were not valued when I started to look for a job, and I couldn't turn it off.
Well, yeah.
It's who I am. So the skills that were so coveted in business ownership were the things that kept me from being able to get hired later on. But it was good because I recognized that I had to go back into business.
Yeah. Yeah. Put you back on your path,
Exactly.
true path.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that word ambition?
Hmm.
Speaking of which, sort of,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Um, it's almost as bad as aggressive.
Really?
Not to me, but I do feel that it's perceived that way. Oh, she's ambitious. Mm-hmm. Got to watch out for her. I don't think that everybody's out to get women, right? I don't think that that the world is against me because I'm female, but I do think that we have subconscious biases.
Mhm.
And it's our responsibility to recognize what the biases are, to understand them, and then not get wrapped up in it and continue on. So I'm still going to use the word aggressive because aggressive is great. If you're aggressively trying to get something accomplished, that's fantastic. If you're aggressively hurting somebody, well, then that's not, right? I mean, so it's like, it's what's the word that's after it
Mm-hmm. Good
or
point.
before it that you really need to focus on. So yes, ambitious is fantastic, but ambitious at the cost of somebody else, no, that's not.
That's a really good take on that. Really good take on that. What would you say is the bravest thing you've ever done?
I got on an airplane and flew with a one-way ticket, $150 in my pocket, and none in the bank, to Arizona.
Uh-huh.
And with no plan. I couldn't afford to get home if I wanted to. I couldn't afford to stay. But it was the beginning. I was 20. I turned 21 there. And it was the beginning of my real life, the one that I was choosing. And that was where I was Lake Havasu, Arizona. And I had a great spring break. And then I took a round trip ticket, plane ride to, and that was the scariest trip ever, by the way, those little tiny planes from Lake Havasu to Tucson, Arizona. And very shortly, even though the relationship that I was in at the moment then didn't work out, I met my husband.
Oh my God.
And then we got married, had 2 children, and then finally moved back to New Hampshire.
What a great story. You need to write your memoir, Lou. Memoir.
I always say, fortunately, I was too wild, too dumb, too flighty to be concerned with how dangerous some of the things that I've done were.
That's youth, right? We all have that. You know, we throw caution to the wind. We think we're immortal, that we just don't realize, you know, like some of the things we do as 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, some 40-year-olds, that might not be the wisest, but somehow we survive and we are here to tell new stories. I love that. What kind of professional development stuff do you do? Do you listen to podcasts, read books? I mean, what do you follow? Influencers on Instagram? How do you learn?
It changes throughout the years. In 2014, I spent a lot of time on Instagram, actually, and watched how other seamstresses, because that's what I was doing at the time, how other seamstresses would market their products, would develop pop-up shops. I'm a watcher. I watch how people write things. I watch how they put their images up, and then I imitate while I try to figure out, does this work for me? In 2016, I was on podcasts all the time. I would just suck them up like they were food. And then from there, I moved into books and audiobooks and SoundCloud. And I started getting more and more specific to my profession, where I was sucking up all of that information. And then very recently, in this last 2 years, I have been invited to be a part of a coaching group that has really stretched me. I've been the only woman in that group for 2 years. And so I learned how to really assess who I was in that space, in a man's world, in a business that tends to be a man's world as well. And it was interesting. I actually got softer and kinder during that.
Interesting.
And so I don't know what will be the next thing, but as of recently, I've turned off the Audible and I've started reading books. And you know what? For the very first time, I have given myself permission to really take ownership of my own books and grab a highlighter and highlight them. Mm-hmm. And another little trick that I've started using is I have these little tiny square Post-its, and I can't stand always looking for the thing that I'm going to put a bookmark in with, right? And so I have these sticky Post-its and I stick them to the page, and it reminds me which page I was on. And it's bright orange, and it's like it just lights me up. And all of a sudden I'm more ready to take in the information, even if I can only read a page at a time. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. What is your number one tool as a business owner that you would recommend to our listeners or viewers?
In this pandemic world that we have been in, can I give you a combination?
Of course.
They work together best.
Yeah, sure.
Zoom, Calendly, and Google Calendar. And the reason that I've chosen those three is that all three of them are free and functional for somebody who's just getting started. If Calendly ever takes away the free Zoom connection, like the connect your link for your Zoom into your Calendly for the free one, then I'll have to rethink that. But I just think that that is just such a powerful tool that you can help somebody to quickly and easily schedule with you and cut down on the amount of unnecessary back and forth, because we should be building a relationship, not navigating senseless activities.
Yeah. I love Calendly as well. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
I pay for it now. It's even worth the investment of the version, but the free version, that's a great tip. I
won't pay for something unless they've made the free version usable enough that I feel that they've earned it.
That's what I do. I used the Calendly. It was free. And I thought, oh my gosh, this has changed how I do business. I'm more efficient with my time. And now I want more to do more. And so I'm like, all right, I'll pay for it. I'll totally. And Zoom, the same thing. I'm like, I'm on Zoom all the time. And even when things shift that we can be more in person, Zoom meetings are not going to go away as far as I'm concerned. So I invest in that too. And of course, the Google Calendar is the middle person in there, if you will, to connect those two. So what is a quick snapshot of either your personal and or professional vision for yourself?
I want to continue my path and my vision of leadership and coaching. I am better for the work that I do for others. It causes me to grow and become more thoughtful and more aware. And so I don't know what exactly evolution business development, networking, and referrals will look like, but I do believe it will always exist in some form. I don't believe that it will be a pay to play, because I think that there will always be another small business owner who's coming along trying to get up those rungs of the ladder. And I don't want to take out any in between and make them stretch even farther. I have a vision of having many, many offices and a minimum of 10 all over the country. Zoom will be here to stay in my world. I want to be the mentor to others that I currently have available to me. And that torch has to get passed at some point. And he can't continue forever, just as I can't. So I want to be able to take that role and then train up those coming along so that one or more of them will want to become, in their own capacity, who I've been and who I will be.
That's a beautiful vision. Beautiful vision. So I have a final question for you.
Okay.
And it's actually a series of questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
What is your favorite flower?
Okay, you're going to hate me again. It can't be one. My favorite flower is many of them together.
Okay.
Not just a bouquet. No, but not just a bouquet. It's like, it's any it could be a pile of them on a table strewn out. It could be a big giant field of them. But flowers are one of those things that are best in multitude.
Okay, I love it. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee always, until I couldn't have coffee anymore. And now it's tea.
Oh. Tahiti or Paris?
Oh, Paris.
Okay, right
I
on.
gotta shop.
Are you an intention setter or a goal getter?
I'm both. I set an intention and then I map out what the goals are specifically. And then I put in the habits.
Do you have a favorite quote you can share with us?
I never remember quotes specifically. But here, we'll go with this one. Just do it.
That one is easy to remember.
But I love it because it's actually Art Williams, a famous speech. And they said, you know, what do I do next? And he said, just do it. And then he said, and how long do I have to do it? Till it's done. Just do it.
Just do it. Right on.
Yeah. Stop thinking about it and just do it.
Isis, thank you so much. This has been a real treat.
Thank you.